And so it was racial, sexual, class, heterosexual oppression, and they saw that their particular task was that the oppressions are interlocking. I used the word earlier, simultaneous, they're also linked, one linked with the other. This is the great benefit of reading about the black feminist issues, because it really helps us to understand this. And then what happens when you get a perspective like this? Your own perspective evolves. You know, you can see better things. This wall looks so flat, you can see many other things suddenly. And your understanding is evolved, it deepens, and and as I mentioned earlier, heterosexism and economic oppression under capitalism. All right, and the last two words here, our lives are experienced simultaneously. Many things happen at the same time. All right, come to the next one. We realize that this I've drawn from the Combahee River Collective Statement. Actually, if you read the Combahee River Collective Statement, it kind of distills the learnings of from the readings and writings and praxis of the women of the period. But the Combahee River Collective doesn't exist. It finished. Kind of finished. I should use a better word, but they are. So again, these are women who spoke about personalist political and addressed the multi-layered texture of black women's lives. In the morning when I was hearing what Dr. Pandey and what Smita ji had to say, I was fascinated, because when you look at things from different perspectives, whether it is from literature, which is looking at the lived life, from sociology, where they are talking about how families and lives and kinship patterns operate and give, and people go through stress to meet their families, as the slave family was broken, and yet the slave would take a risk to go and see his family. I was just was fascinated that a theme like slavery could, and looking at it from different perspectives, can open such phenomenal dimensions into your own way of looking at life. And then the phase that has come in the Combahee River Collective is no one before has examined the multi-layered texture. Look at the wonderful word that they've used, the multi-layered texture of black women's lives. Their lives have been, the less risky your life, the fewer textures it has. The more difficult your life, there can be many textures to your life. Consciousness raising. If you belong to a women's group, or if you visited a women's group, women's group indulge, or one of their processes is consciousness raising from your dull reactions to everyday life. Life dulls us. To bring out your oppression, you have to bring out from within you what is it that hurts and that you have covered like an oyster. We do that in our lives. If something hurts us, quickly we cover it so that the hurt doesn't show. But then to address that hurt, you have to bring it out, and that is done through consciousness raising. These sessions were, were generated by, were encouraged, we learnt about these things really from the black women. And then, of course, their differences with the NBFO. They had cooperated with the National Socialist Feminist Consciousness to develop their own understanding of economics. And as a group, then they worked on writing, collating material, setting up battered women's rape centers, healthcare issues, things like Dr. Verma has also mentioned in context with the white women. Third world women, the unity, trying to see what is similar between their lives and the lives of third world women. Because third world women have experienced, as we were mentioning in the morning, in course of our discussion, colonization. And with colonization, we also talk about women's issues, But how do we perceive women's issue vis-a-vis the power of the Western theory and our own lives? And then I'll quickly come to an end in this. So they've only expanded gender, race, class, sexuality, nationality. Third world women, for example, age. Are your problems same as my problem? We are all women, but age issues are significant within women's issues. Ability, people have different abilities, and social experiences. And then Bell Hooks was a writer who spoke about the same word simultaneity, but another word she uses is interlocking systems of oppression. All these are simultaneous, all these are interlocked, and another interesting term comes up, that we are all in multiple jeopardy. We don't have one problem, we have several. And lastly, this is one thing which I thought was very interesting. The desire to say, don't look at commonalities to make a theory. Try to understand the significance of difference. We can never be the same. We are all different people. Emphasize, understand what difference is, and we have therefore some interesting women, Audre Lorde, very famous writer, Barbara Smith, one of the founders of the Combahee River Collective, Charlotte Bunch, a feminist, Bell Hooks, always written in small case. She writes her name in small case. And finally, with this emphasis on difference, I will close, but it is worth reading out. Audre Lorde says, it is not differences which are separating us. We can only solve our problems if we work together. But how do we work together? You are different, I'm different, I don't agree with you, you look at it, life like this, I look at differently. Race, sex, nationality, age, we're all different. So she says, it is not the differences which are separating us. It is rather our refusal to recognize these differences and to examine the distortions that result from our misnaming them. We don't understand, and therefore we misnaming them, and their effects upon human behavior and the expectations that arise from it. And so the insights that the black feminists have given us, the black women feminists have given us, interlocking systems of domination, importance of difference, which they have given us, have greatly enriched feminist theory. Thank you for your attention.
Now, while as we end, it wouldn't be at all appropriate if we didn't make a small reference to the major black women writers.
Yes.
And probably, let me have a name. The most famous.
Alice Walker.
Adrienne Rich. Joyce Carol Oates, Maya Angelou, and of course, Toni Morrison.
Why not?
She wins the Nobel Prize. And definitely recommended that you read her works. They're very readable, wonderful, enjoyable. And when you talked about black feminism, we've talked about women understanding their position, and look at the level of marginalization. You're marginalized on. So at the center we have the white Anglo-Saxon male. First marginalization is because of color, gender,
sexuality,
age,
and all that.
race, class. Just think of it. So if you look at the position that a black woman had, so just imagine there is a woman who's black, who's poor, is working in a factory where there are others. Think of the level of oppression. She's old.
She's from the third world.
She's from the third world. Kitne levels of marginalization, how they will operate all together.
Disabled.
Even another angle to it.
So, to understand what is being said to you, what I was saying just now, Dr. Jayal said, that, you have to understand that all these oppressions when they are, you can't think of them in just kind of happening chronologically,
Yeah.
happening one after the other, when they are simultaneously it's happening. There's a whole new world of literature. We'll have another session with you where we'll talk about literature separately and not mix it up with this. All the PowerPoint presentations that have been made will be available in handouts. We will give it to you, a hard copy, and also in soft copy, if you want to use them. We're giving you handouts, and if you any other material, we'll give you a reading list on both the topics, and we expect that you will go further and read it. And maybe we'll have another session if you have questions. We'll be happy to take some questions now, and more questions. We'll have another session to have questions. All right.
Ma'am, how could a black woman come to be, prejudiced on the basis of her gender? She was emancipated from the start. She was, it's like she had all the control of her family. The kids, they were with her. She was economically not dependent on anybody. As far as like she used to go to work and she used to know how to earn money. Then how could black men have, prejudiced black women?
Okay, thank you. What an interesting question. Okay, how could black women have, would you like to sit? How could she have been prejudiced? If we take the example of participating in a mobilization, in a, suppose we take a sit-in or a ghirao or any group in which men and women are both participating. It's very interesting and it's empirically proved also. And even by our rule of thumb, we see it happening all the time. It's very empowered women who participate. But when it comes to, changed behavior practices, they don't necessarily operate. You may ask, I may be very active in a movement, but within a movement itself, very often the men might give me the job of distributing the tea. And we were there in the struggle. Telangana struggle has reports, beautiful writings about this. There have been Chipko movement the Uttarakhand movement. Actually, activists have told me that when it comes to lying on the tracks, when it is to stop the Shatabdi, the women are all mobilized and put there in the forefront. But when it comes to delivering the fruit of office, then how many women get the job of being the leaders? So this happens all the time. So the difference that perhaps, I think it might answer some of your question, but a little ahead if I'd like to explain, there's a difference between being empowered personally and my permission to be empowered or powerful outside the system. See, these efforts that she is making have been individual efforts at empowerment. It's not as if the society gave her the power to do certain things. When she was working, she's working to survive. She's on the factory lines. She's not at the helm of affairs. And it's not a choice that she made in either case. So many of these things that you're talking about, when the patriarchal system is operating, it gives you harm. Yeah, fine.
Even today, if you look at women who you think look most empowered, when they recruit, suddenly lesser capable, lesser qualified,
much more
people,
empowered.
Men, simply because they are men, are given.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
It's a patriarchal system.
Interestingly, why did Hillary Clinton not become the president of America? I asked the question. Was there a group?
Was she in any way less competent?
Was she in any way less competent? She was a front runner. Was there a group in America which thought that we can do with a black
But
man
not with a woman.
rather than a white
Woman.
That question was posed, has been posed and left at that. But America chose to vote for a man,
Not for a
even
woman.
if he was a black man, rather than a woman. This is
Woman.
all the news channels, everywhere this has been on. When will America, which is
Get a fuck.
We have a white.
have
Vote first by
have
the woman
as
president.
its so it's not just black women, so it's circumstances which is forced them to take on certain roles. That doesn't
Sisters.
mean that necessarily
They
society
have another choice.
gives them an education, but they do not have a choice because the black male will behave in society the way like any other male will behave. Because when you talk of gender politics, there is gender politics that exists between a man and a woman, black or white.
Right.
And gender politics plays itself out
In the
in
societal
the same
ways.
way,
And,
in the societal way. So it will play the same way for a black man and woman as it will play for a white man and woman. That's just how it is. No? Thank you very much. I'm happy for your
Thank you.
your good
Thank you,
job.
all of you.
Take your hand out and